gotta tell somebody.
This is the best thing I've ever seen.
Let's talk about that.
Listen to this.
Memorable and exciting.
Well, then be less boring.
I'm going to tell everyone. Wait here.
Mighty remarkable, Big Daddy.
Remarkable.
Welcome to Remarkable, a podcast for B2B marketers that deconstructs the most iconic moments in film, television, pop culture, and advertising for a single purpose: to give you, the B2B marketer, the same storytelling techniques that the pros use. In each episode, you will learn techniques from Hollywood, Pixar, Marvel, and beyond, from Spielberg's hands to yours, bringing remarkable content ideas to you every single week. I'm Ian Faison, CEO of Caspian Studios. This is Remarkable. This week, we're talking marketing lessons from Jim Henson Idea Man.
Hello there. My name is Jim Henson, and I'm a puppeteer.
With the help of our special guest, Resilio CMO. Adam, how are you?
I'm good, Ian. Thank you for having me. It's a delight to be here.
Excited to have you on the show. Would love Jim Henson. Very excited to dig in on this and on Resilio. But first, why the heck did you pick Jim Henson Idea Man?
So first let's start. Who among us in my age group didn't love turning on the TV and watching The Muppet Show, the original run, the pageantry, the showmanship, the guest stars? It was just such a cultural phenomenon, I think, at the time, and the technical artistry behind what they did, blending, real humans and these amazing characters that were puppets, was just, for a kid was magical, especially for a kid like me who was really interested in television and film and storytelling and photography and Super 8mm cameras and all that sort of stuff. Being able to kind of create that piece of entertainment to me was absolutely captivating. And then about 3 or 4 months ago, I sat down and actually watched the Henson documentary on Disney Plus. And I think it's been out for about a year now. Yeah. And as I was watching it, I'm like, it's just like his life lessons, his partnership with his wife, his partnership with Frank Oz, how he built his business, how he blended commerce and creativity while being authentic. We're just like, these are good business lessons. So I'm like, I'm going to write a blog post about this. And then I never got around to the blog post. And then you guys
and here we
suggested, and I said, let's talk about it. Let's do it.
Amazing. Jim Henson is such a legend. I'm so excited to dig in. And I think what's like truly the test of absolutely remarkable, wonderful, and life-changing, storytelling-changing creator is like, my son watches Elmo and is just as excited as I was when I watched Elmo, just as excited as you were when you probably watched Elmo. And it's like, gosh, I mean, think of how incredible it is to create a character that is just as popular. We sit on the Elmo potty every day at the Faison household. We got the Elmo potty, and you flush it, and it makes a little flushing sound. He tells you good job. Like, we're in. Jim Henson's in my bathroom. His legacy, which is weird to say.
I'm pretty sure we had the Elmo Helps You Poop board book for our kids too. So I feel your experience there.
In the things that age us category, Meredith, is a fun fact that you probably didn't know. So my brother is 7 years older than me, and his how you do your junior thesis in high school of your big thesis that you got to write on something. My brother wrote his junior thesis in the popular platform Elmo Talk and Type. So literally, he was typing it in the other room. He'd be typing, and he was, whatever his junior thesis was about. And he's writing whatever, a 10-page thing. And Elmo's like, hooray! It's so great. On the Apple IIgs.
I think I had that. Or was it a Performa 200? I had one of the two. I don't remember which one.
Yeah. But anyways, Jim Henson, all over the world. Zooming out. Tell us a little bit about your role as CMO of Resilio.
Let me zoom back out and kind of give you a little perspective. So I spent my career in helping creative professionals be more productive and engage your audience through creative applications. I spent a big part of my career at Avid and working with creative professionals with Media Composer, Pro Tools, Live Sound tools, corporate media production. And I've always just really wanted to live in a space where you can use software, build software, cool, innovative software but put it to use in the media and entertainment industry. And that led me to Resilio about 2 years ago, where they were taking some nascent steps into the media and entertainment industry, and they were looking to build out their strategy there. And what was really cool for me about Resilio was a very early stage startup, bootstrap, and they had been founder-led sales and then started to do some inbound marketing, and they were at the phase now where they were ready to kind of really kick off their outbound marketing and outbound sales and enterprise sales motion, and jumped on board. And it's been a rocket ship since then. It's been a lot of fun. And again, we're here where we're working with really creative customers across a variety of industries who are really trying to help their companies move faster. And Resilio is a part of that. So it's been an exciting ride.
Meredith, what the heck is Jim Henson Idea Man?
So it is a documentary about Jim Henson's life and work, like creating The Muppets, Sesame Street, Fraggle Rock, The Dark Crystal, all of these like big hits. And it came out last year in 2024, so it's pretty new. But what really struck me about this documentary is that his daughter, Lisa, who happens to also be the CEO of the Jim Henson Company, gave basically like full access to the filmmakers of Jim Henson's archives. And so it includes home movies, photos, sketches, diaries, like all this very personal material. There's archival footage, interviews, and animations that haven't been seen before by the general public. So you're kind of getting this inside view of his life. And the other notable thing is that Ron Howard directed it. And like, I'm familiar with Ron Howard as like being from Happy Days and the Andy Griffith Show, but Ian said he's also one of the best directors ever, in his opinion. And I agree. I didn't realize he directed Apollo 13.
Apollo 13, yes.
Yeah.
I didn't realize he directed that. But so he's an incredible director as well. And he really came into this project wanting to honor Jim Henson. So he's coming in from this like very respectful place, which no wonder they were giving him, like Lisa Henson was giving him the sort of honor of making this documentary.
What we really wanted was a documentary about Jim Henson that looked like Jim Henson made it, Ron Howard. When he tells a story, it becomes a really emotional story where you really feel like you know the people that he's talking about, and that he did brilliantly.
And so he said he was an admirer of Henson, but it was really when he had his first exploratory meeting with the family and they showed him the archives, like, this is what you're going to be able to work with. And that's when he was like, ooh, I really want to do this project. And he said, I realized there was just a lot to learn and that there were lessons in his journey. As playful, creative, and nostalgic as all of his work is to us, there are real lessons about the journey that I thought were interesting. Creatively, he was always inventing, always exploring, and all of those experiments that he was messing around with, making home movies with his kids, that all led to the stuff that we all remember so well. And so that sort of plays into that idea that like, we know his main successes, but that's come with like years and years of work, years and years of experimenting and creating new things. I mean, always trying something new.
His ideas came from excitement in him.
He said to me that from a very early age, he had the feeling that he was here for a purpose and a reason. And that was largely what drove him.
And he also added that I knew nothing about his wife, Jane, and how significant she was. They just did it together. They built the Muppet idea together. And so you have this partnership of the two spouses working together and making something amazing. But Ron Howard also doesn't shy away from the more difficult parts of Henson's life either, like the effect of his dedication to his work on his personal life.
Becoming famous was what he wanted, that there was an innocence getting lost, was going to impact his relationship with us and everything that was complex.
And Ron Howard said, ironically, the pressures, the possibilities of everything that they had created, the thing that had brought them together romantically, in a lot of ways ended up pulling them apart. Mm-hmm. And so he talks about that as well in the documentary. And so I know, Ian, we want to bring in more statistics onto the show. And so I was like, how many Muppets has Jim Henson made? And there are different numbers out there.
Gotta be in the hundreds.
It's in the hundreds. Do you guys want to guess?
I mean,
don't look at the.
I'm going to go short. You want to go, Leon? You want to go low? I'll go high.
I've already cheated. I know the answer.
Oh.
Okay. I'm going to say 500.
Okay. So there are different numbers out there.
I'm going to go $1. Price is Right rules.
So one source says at least over 350 Muppets between Sesame Street and The Muppet Show and his movies. But another source cataloged, so I'll talk about that in a second, cataloged over 1,000 Muppet characters across all media.
It's The Muppet Show with tonight's guest star, Mr. Joel Grey.
And so I'm not sure if that means they were actually made, like fabricated, or if they were just sort of like designed as concepts. But he was prolific, right? And so he just is like, when I think about him, I think of just like all of these nostalgic shows and all of the creativity it took to make them. But with this documentary, what's interesting is like it faced a little bit of criticism about like people kind of were like, this is a very like typical documentary style. It doesn't really show you a greater depth of who Jim Henson was as a person. So I'm wondering, Adam, if you had any similar criticism or if you kind of like what your reaction to the documentary was as a documentary.
So it's funny you mentioned that. In fact, not to get off track, I just finished watching the Pee-wee documentary on HBO.
Is that good?
Yeah, it is very good. But it has similar criticisms in that you can... what's the narrative that you're trying to tell? You're trying to draw lessons from it. And do you need to get into the negative aspects of everything? Like how much do you want to drill into that? With Henson, there's certainly things to be said about there was a whole crew and team of puppeteers who helped bring these creations to life.
Yeah.
And you could make the argument that the documentary didn't focus on that. But when you're a documentarian, you have a vision and a story to tell. And sometimes that story comes out through the archival material and the interviews. And of course that helps support it, but you only have so much time, right?
Yeah.
And so you can't go sideways with everything. So I think, from a viewer perspective, oh, you didn't talk about this. It's not possible. You can't fit it all in. So you have to pick your lane. And I think that's fine. There's plenty of archival and other source material out there, web, internet, whatever, that you can get in deep on the topic. But as far as like having a perspective and a lens, you got to be focused like any project.
I think that's a wonderful takeaway. I think it's a very valid critique. I think it's a great takeaway. And I think that if someone feels that strongly, then they should do a documentary on the puppeteers behind it, right? It's like that simple. You want their story to be told, go tell it. Like, what's stopping you? Like you have the internet, you have a phone.
You have this amazing thing called YouTube. Where you can publish anytime you want. So,
yeah, exactly. And I don't say that to be critical. I do mean it. It's like, if like you're fired up enough to write a post about that, like literally go make it. And I think it being called Jim Henson Idea Man speaks to exactly what you're going to get. This was a person of ideas, This was a person who had all these brilliant people like puppeteers that brought his creations to life.
The space he gave to an expression of imagination, I see that in everything that he did.
But, it centers at someone had to have an idea for this whole thing to begin with, and that's the currency of ideas, are the currency of creativity, right? It's like you got to find those, and then you got to go build it.
And it also speaks to the broader topic we're going to discuss here. So if you're a documentary filmmaker, if you want to get real esoteric on a concept, I don't think there's an audience for that on a streamer, right? But so you have to find the right balance of creativity, artistry, and commerce. It's imaginative, it's bold, it's interesting, but it can find an audience, right? If you're going to put it on an ad-supported or a subscription-based platform, you've got to be able to deliver the audience. And I think that speaks to Henson himself, who was a master from his early days in television advertising work all the way through to the end of his career, end of his life, where he found a great balance between how can I express myself creatively, but how can I be paid for that work in a way that supports all the things that I want to do. It's that blend of creativity and commerce that I think he was a master at early on. And my hot take on this is Jim Henson was one of the earliest creators, right? He found an early fledgling medium, television. He built his own technology to deliver his artistry through the method of puppetry. And he brought that to life, and he didn't have a huge studio behind him to create that stuff. So you could make the argument that Jim was one of the first creators as far as popular media.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a great point. And like, as with everything in media, what's old is new again, always. But the idea I mean, puppets have been around. I mean, I don't know if we pulled the stat, Meredith. I don't know, 10,000 BC. Like, I don't know.
Sure.
Since the dawn of humanity, and taking a stick and wrapping it around with grass. And so puppets have been used to tell stories forever. And the idea of creating characters out of those puppets that have these like really weird, quirky, unique personalities is transformative, right? And then shooting it extremely cost effectively on set. My son has been watching Blue's Clues lately, and I was thinking of Blue's Clues. I'm like, this is just it's like such a. We were watching the original, and it's like such a 90s thing, like the whole, just everything about it and the clothes and everything. And it's so good. And it's like, my son watches it. He does not care. Like, he doesn't need anything else, right? It's just entertaining. He doesn't care about the graphics. He doesn't care about, all these other things that as an adult you would care about. He just cares about that in the same way that he cares about Muppets. And, he can just see a Muppet and immediately connect with it. My son saw Elmo when he's 2 years old or whatever, and it's just like, that's my dude. Like, I mean, that's so. Can you imagine how magical that is, that you could create something that can connect with a 2-year-old after you've been dead for however many years? Like, it's like literally, I'm like tearing up thinking about it. But it's just like, that's so crazy and so cool. And the reason why is because it's a real puppet, and it's shot and brought to life by the puppeteer in a way that is so consistent. Muppet. I don't know if you've seen the joke about Elmo. That's like, Elmo's actually living in hell. He never ages. It's like the Groundhog Day for him. But Elmo never ages. He's always the same. He always has the same personality, and that consistency in character is just like so brilliant, and it's just cool.
Well, you mentioned character, which I think is really interesting about Henson, the dynamic between Henson and Kermit. I think Henson created a product, which was Kermit, but he suffused that product with his own personality. If you think about Kermit, the two things that come to mind are kind of like his optimism and his kind of determination, right? And I think that was Jim, right? Baked into Kermit. And that's a good lesson for us as marketers, which is like, you can create a logo, you can say you can create a brand, but if you don't infuse it with, especially with a startup, with the personality and characteristics of your creator or your founders, and give it a personality of its own that can be differentiated, what have you created? You've created, I don't know, a generic thing that can sit in the shelf. So that's the lesson I draw from Jim, is like, put yourself into it. Even if it's an avatar of yourself, if you don't want to be the thing that is front and center, at least create an avatar of yourself that can carry those qualities forward and be the brand for you.
Yeah, that's fun. I also should add that Elmo was designed by a Muppet artist builder named Carolee Wilcox in 1979. So not a direct Jim Henson creation in that sense, but sort of the broader sense that he created Muppets, which then this was created the space for creating, which is a B2B lesson I'll get to.
What's really interesting is kind of the persona creation that he did as well with each character. So getting back to like the Muppet Show itself, right? Each character has a very distinct persona that can stand in as an avatar for the audience, right? So you've got Fozzie Bear, which is kind of like more laid back, chill, kind of happy-go-lucky.
Are you ready, comedy partner? Waka waka.
You got Gonzo, who's like, ridiculously crazy and adventurous.
Very much. Thank you. Tonight, ladies and gentlemen, I will eat this rubber tire to the music of the flight of the bumblebee.
You've got Scooter, who's very, on point and managing things and head down.
I'm your new gopher. Gopher? No. We have frogs and pigs and chickens around here, but we've never had a gopher. Matter of fact, you don't even look like a gopher.
Yeah, well, you don't understand. You see, I'm your new gopher. Yeah, I'll go for coffee. I'll go for sandwiches. I'll go for anything you need.
Who else? Miss Piggy.
Hello, little people. What an absolutely splendid day.
So each of these have their own distinctive personalities that the audience can connect with. And isn't that part of what we try to do in marketing as well, is create these personas? We all talk about personas, ICPs, that try to connect with your buyer. And while we're good at crafting ideal personas in our marketing plans, does our marketing campaigns actually are they infused with the traits of the personas that we create? I think that's one of the connection points that we often miss as marketers. It's like, well, make sure your marketing feels like the persona that you're trying to speak to.
Yeah, and I think just like breathing the vibrancy, into that is part of what's so great about all the different Muppets. Is like, it's like when you see the Muppets like in an ensemble, like you see a photo of them, isn't it just the most beautiful thing? Like you see them all, the different colors and shapes and sizes, and it's like all together. We have this great, I know this whole thing is not about my son and Sesame Street, but we have this book called, I don't know, it's like Count a Block or something like that. Basically, it's a book and it's counting to 25, and it's all these different like Sesame Street isms. And it's just the most beautiful book because it's just like every scene of Sesame Street and these different characters. And then when you see the final image of like them all together on Sesame Street, and you're like, this is just a wonderfully visually enticing thing. And I just feel like that and like on their own, it's like, yeah, Peppy the King Prawn is a little weird looking. Gonzo is weird looking on his own. Like Rizzo the Rat is pretty weird looking. Fozzie Bear's like kind of weird looking, But them together is this just magic. Again, it's just so cool.
And if I can make a reading recommendation, I want you to, after this recording, go out and buy The Monster at the end of this book. It's a tale told from the perspective of Gonzo. I read it as a kid in the late 70s. It's still available. And it captured my imagination as a kid in such a way that I still remember like huge hits of nostalgia whenever I still see it on Barnes and Noble bookshelves. So I think your son would enjoy that too.
I love that. Meredith, what else? Any other Muppet thoughts?
Did you know the Muppet Show had 2 pilots, and the second one was called The Muppet Show Sex and Violence, and it premiered in 1975?
No.
Is that available to see anywhere?
Oh, let's look.
Is that
I'm
real?
Sure it is. Hey, I mean, you can't believe everything that the internet tells you, but we'll see.
It's a 1975 film.
Oh, it's a film.
Oh my gosh.
It looks like it's on YouTube.
This is hilarious.
It's crazy. Also, I was looking up my favorite Jim Henson puppet are the Martians on Sesame Street, the Yip Yip Martians. But I was reading that they were originally just chenille hats that because they're really simple looking puppets. Anyway.
I think, and Kermit's eyes were ping pong balls that he cut up, and I think it was his mother's coat. That was Kermit's original, green fabric.
It was my mother's coat and a ping pong ball. That's how it all started.
He had so many ideas and so many things he wanted to do. His inner life must have been sparkling.
Oh my gosh.
So found materials, right? And crafting something out of nothing. And that's like his whole, Jim Henson was just a technology innovator in his time. I mean, again, coming up with the mechanisms to not only manipulate the puppets, but also having early closed circuit television screens, underneath the puppeteers so that they could react to the other performers and motion, and kind of using the camera as a stage, right? He understood how to play to the cameras and lighting, and staging, and two characters who are not alive, not computer generated, interacting with each other. It was. I don't believe he gets enough credit for his technical innovation as much as the artistry of puppetry itself.
The Muppet deadpan look into the camera is so iconic.
Yes.
It's like one of the all-time best.
And you mentioned Dark Crystal at the beginning. Blew my mind as a kid, right? What year did Dark Crystal come out?
84, I think, or something.
Okay, so I was about 9, give or take. And I was like absolutely fascinated with that movie. It was like scary, but also just so imaginative. But think about, you're talking about puppets that were, probably 8 feet tall, and then the little elf ones,
and
everything that was going on. And that's all happening in camera. There's probably some early CG I don't recall, but I would think most of those were practical effects. So think about, again, the technical artistry. The Muppet Show is one thing, but to do a whole film around that. Of course, he helped, with the artistry on Willow, and what was the other one? Was it Labyrinth?
Yeah, and Labyrinth,
Just again, pushing the medium forward and trying things that hadn't been done before. It's just a hallmark, and it's, probably good lessons for us to draw from, which is we have all these tools, but, are we really pushing ourselves to exploit them in ways that hadn't been considered yet?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. What are the B2B marketing takeaways from Jim Henson Idea Man?
So a couple of things. One, I think if you think about a Muppet character in the 70s and a Muppet character today, there's a consistency, a narrative consistency that has happened over decades, where Fonzie, what he was 30 years ago, is Fonzie today, and is still relevant today. And I think that's what we as marketers need to be thinking about, is narrative consistency. We can tend to get bored with our own ideas or try to go in multiple different ways. But if we're not, if we haven't landed our message and are consistently delivering it over time through multiple channels and adapting that narrative across multiple channels, as Henson did with adapting the Muppets for TV, film, cartoons, animation, radio, right, and now streaming platforms, like that adaptation across mediums while also maintaining that narrative consistency of the characters. What a Fonzie is today versus Fonzie then. That to me is something that we can take lessons from, is that sense of consistency and practicality across mediums as we try to connect with the audience. I also think, the idea of vulnerability of his characters, right? His characters show such a range of emotion, and it's okay to in all the movies, right? They fail at something or they have to come back from adversity. And I think we as marketers, we don't need to present ourselves as perfect brands and perfect solutions. Or when you're engaging an audience, nobody wants to talk to the perfect guy, the perfect LinkedIn influencer. Showing vulnerability and building in public and how you pivoted and changed, that to me builds that authenticity. And I think that's a lesson we can learn from Muppets and Jim, that nobody's perfect. We all make mistakes. And in particular, if you're in the area of corporate communications and crisis communication, the biggest lesson from crisis PR is first, acknowledge the problem and then offer solution. You can't stonewall things like that. So you have to be a little bit vulnerable and open to having that sense of vulnerability to address your audience, because they're going to trust you if you show vulnerability. And I just happen to like that.
I like that. The piece on narrative consistency, I agree that it is the case. I think it's also like, the key point about, you watch a film, like you want the protagonist to change, right? If you watch a TV show, you don't want them to change, or maybe they do if it's a certain type of show. But generally speaking, like, who Chandler Bing is from episode 1 is more or less the exact same character at the very end. Maybe he has gotten a little bit more mature, but
there's
like
a character arc, but it's the qualities are there.
Yeah, but it's not like a true. He's not a different character. Whereas in a film, they are. And I think a lot of times, like when we're thinking of sort of like our personas, that really the persona perhaps changes. But not really like year to year. There's different things that they care about, but like the persona doesn't necessarily change. You're selling to CIOs. A CIO's responsibilities are different, very different today than they were 10 years ago, like completely different, or even a year ago with the rise of AI. But I think that you have to understand, you have to like get to the core of who they are as people and what makes them tick. And that probably has not changed. How they're responding, like why they got into the field in the first place and what excited them or what continues to excite them probably is still there. And I think getting to the core of who people are rather than sort of treating everything as like, oh, it's just a problem to be solved, I think can make like richer characters. And it's like elementally, you could write exactly who Kermit is in a paragraph, you know what I mean? And that's why Kermit always makes sense and he's always great in a scene. And you can always find a really good foil for him because it's Miss Piggy because she's crazy or, whoever it is that like you can put them into these sort of scenes. And so if you can focus on making your personas like really elemental, then it allows you to shift them around a bunch. And really, we did the Chaos Muppet episode back like 100 episodes ago, but this is an important point is like, there are some executives that are Chaos Muppets. There are some executives that are Order Muppets, and they marry each other. You know what I mean? But I think that's an important point too, is your persona, they got into the field because they like technology. They got into, they're trying to stay at the cutting edge. They're trying to do whatever. But are they the person who responds to emails within 30 seconds or a text? Or are they the person that 9 weeks from now sends you an email and be like, hey, just catching up on my email? Those are the little things where you can sort of start pattern matching outside of just the persona of who their personalities are that can help. And it's who they are as a person in addition to their work habits might help there. So,
yeah, I'll hit you with another one. Creative collaboration, right? So in the entertainment industry, in marketing too, we have big egos. And that's fine. But if you want to do your best work, my take is that you have to have egoless collaboration with a partner to get your best work. And, you look at Jim and Frank Oz. It's a name we haven't mentioned is Frank Oz, right? Still performing today, still working today, voice of Yoda and countless other characters, both and a successful director as well, film and television. And those two guys worked together, elevated each other every year, their partnership, pushing each other and not getting in the way of each other. And Jim's own creative relationship with his wife, Jane Henson, as well, the true partnership. And I think the idea there is what Jim was, the lesson we can learn from Jim is pick the partner. Finding a partner in work is a lot like, I think marriage is the most important thing you can do in your life is pick the right partner on the family side, but also pick the right partner in business who you can elevate each other's work as you go along and push each other and have that egoless collaboration. There's no other way. And whether it's, the relationship you have across departments from client to agency or whatever, finding that collaborator in life or that mentor even is critically important. I know I've had mentors in my career, Meredith and Ian, I'm sure you have as well.
Yeah, it's such a great point. I think collaboration is so important and really just finding the brilliant people who want to dig in and do the work and love the work. I think Frank Oz is a great example who, by the way, spent his formative years in Oakland, California. Shout out Oakland, went to Oakland Tech. His parents were puppeteers, which is crazy. So it's kind of one of the family business. He also did puppeteering at Fairyland. Shout out to Fairyland in Oakland, California, where I've been many times as a kid and as an adult, which is really cool. And I think finding those people and grabbing onto them and not letting them go, that's part of it is are you the type of person who's thinking about, your career in the long term to say, hey, what could this relationship become? I think that's an important piece of this. It's something that, a lot of people don't necessarily think about, but is really important. And yeah, this is Frank Oz, someone who just, he was 19. When he joined Jim Henson, right? It's that's crazy. Unbelievable.
What about the idea of entertainment first, selling second? What I mean by that is you look back in the documentary, you see his early work. I think it was for Wilkins Coffee, right? In black and white TV spots. And instead of just, showing a can of coffee and having a tagline, he had these puppet characters who did wild things like shoot guns, smoke cigarettes. It was by today's standards, kind of crazy, but what it did was it broke through and it was entertainment in service of product introduction. And again, a lesson for us as marketers is, do we want to beat people over the head with the technical benefits of the product, or do we want to entertain and educate our prospects so that we can kind of get them emotionally connected to what we're doing and then kind of introduce them to the offering. And I think Jim was a master of that, getting back to that idea of, again, early in his career, finding a balance between artistry, creativity, and the commerce aspect to have a product that made money and got people to take notice.
I love that. That's a great point. I think another B2B marketing lesson for me on Jim Henson is that you got to try new stuff. He was the best I don't say puppeteer, but, a creator of this entire world and Muppets and all these things, does Dark Crystal. And then he goes and makes Labyrinth. And I guarantee you there's a lot of people that, well, how do you know how to direct, live? I mean, even before he did with Dark Crystal, how are you going to be able to do this? And it's like, I guarantee you, he got tons of pushback there. And I think that, those are the sort of things where getting out of your comfort zone, doing something, I mean, an iconic 80s movie, David Bowie and all that. But I think that that's important. Every project I've ever done that's new, someone says, well, you haven't done this before. I'm like, yeah. If I would have done it already, I probably wouldn't be talking to you right now. You know what I mean? And I think that just it's so important to push yourself to do new things. It's so important. And if you sort of step back and say I am a storyteller at heart, this is what I love to do. It doesn't matter if it's puppets or Muppets or live action or writing or all that. Those are just labels that somebody else wants to use to just put them on you. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if someone thinks that you're a director or not a director, or a writer or not a writer. Who cares? It doesn't matter at all. If you want to do it, just go do it.
Absolutely. You're not going to know until you try, and you're not going to succeed until you've failed a couple of times. And so getting out there and doing the work. And again, if you can bounce that off a creative partner and have somebody push you and be open to that kind of, not that constructive criticism, right? Of how I can make this art better. If you shut yourself off to that type of input, then I don't think your audience is going to react and as engaged as deeply.
Yeah. Another takeaway for me is, oh my gosh, I'm totally blanking on it. Where's it in my notes? Well, anyways, whatever. Well, I'll think of it some other day. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, what about it's kind of the idea of creating your own intellectual property too. I mean, he basically created brands out of nothing, and he built something that could be licensed as well and franchised out to, whether it be merchandising through toys and games and everything else. So that ability to create something that transcended not just media, but the physical world too. And that's something we should be thinking about is how do we, we love to be digital. We love to be online, but have we gotten away from the physical nature of interacting with people in the real world and creating physical manifestations of our brand? And that, I'm talking just something as simple as trade shows and events, right? What I'm finding with marketers today is that reticence to kind of get back to doing trade shows, events, conferences, field marketing, that sort of thing. But that's where your brand becomes physical. That's where you make the relationships. That's where you break out of being an abstract concept, specifically when you're selling the invisible, like software, become a reality for something. And that's what I love about the Muppets and the Muppet Show and everything else, is that it, just like you're talking about your son with, whether it's a potty or it's a physical object that you can interact with and create a piece of nostalgia around. Remember when, you can talk to your significant other and talk about when your own kids had these formative milestones and that they were connected to a brand. That's pretty cool. How do we make the invisible visible? How do we bring it into the real world? Is, I think, an interesting concept for us marketers.
Amazing. How do you think about marketing and content as a CMO?
Oh, I have deep thoughts. How much time do we have on this podcast?
I know we have 6 minutes left. I don't know if we'll be able to cover it.
Okay. So here's my thinking. I hate the word content, but okay, for the sake,
it's so bad. It's all we got, though.
It's all we got. Okay, so let's go with it. But I believe in the Netflix model, which is if you go to Netflix, there's probably, when you get to the home screen, there's probably a genre or category of content that's going to appeal and engage to you. And more importantly, that content is probably a serialized, episodic narrative arc, 8 episodes, 10 episodes series that helps you go through the hero's journey from beginning to end. And as marketers, I don't think we're thinking enough about how to do the art of storytelling, which hasn't significantly changed for 10,000 years. The hero's journey is still as applicable today as it was in the times of the Greeks and Romans. So from a content marketing perspective, I believe in the art of serialized content that tells a story over multiple episodes that connects in a genre-based way to somebody who has an area of interest in that genre. So podcasts, to me, are the ultimate expression of that, where the best podcasts have a specific point of view, have engaging hosts, have a narrative arc over like a true crime podcast or anything by Wondery or all those guys that help the listener engage throughout multiple episodes that you can pick up. And that to me is the future of content on our websites. It's not case studies. It's not, whatever. It's, hey, does this company speak to me in not webinars, but just chunks of material that I can get through in stages and connect with the people who are presenting that content. I want to connect with Ian and Meredith, and I like them, and I like their personalities, and I like their point of view. The platform that we're on today, Riverside, I think does an excellent job of that. If you look at Stephen Robles, who's kind of like the face of Riverside, where you go to their website, he's right there. You go to the YouTube channel, he's got all this educational content. That to me is getting back to the themes of infusing your personality into your content. We know what you stand for. We know who you're for. And I'm able to follow you on that journey through these pieces of content that I'm consuming. And that to me is where we need to be. And it's really hard to do that well. Right? It takes a lot of planning because we want to get that next piece out and we got to get that next thing up and we got to publish in the search engines and everything else. But I implore you as marketers, talk to your customers, record those conversations, aggregate all that content together, use an AI engine if you need to pull out trends and advice and things that are being repeated, and then use that as a basis to tell a story. And you don't need to do it in 90 minutes or 2 hour or a 3 hour webinar or whatever. You can create chapters. And that's why people always say, oh, how long should this video be? Should it be a minute? No, it should be 2 minutes. People have a 6-second attention span or whatever. Who cares? It doesn't matter. As long as it's interesting and tells a narrative arc from beginning to end, and I've learned something through that journey with you, it doesn't matter how long it is. That's my big picture content. The more practical side of it is
fantastic.
So that's big picture. Okay, so how do I make this real? So from a practical standpoint, I would say this. Listen, if you're not starting with video, you're probably already failing. Video is the language of the modern era. There was a hypothesis about 15 years ago by a really smart guy in the video entertainment industry who said that editing video will be as natural to the next generation of creative professionals as writing in a Word document, as typing in a Word document. And I think we're getting close to that.
Yeah,
15 years
you're
later.
right. Yeah, you're totally right.
Using the tools we're recording on right now, we're going to be able to edit based on the transcript, and it's very simple. So video, I think, becomes the natural language by which we storytell and communicate with each other. It is what it is. So if you're not starting with a video format, then I think you're already kind of behind the 8 ball. Now, video takes a little bit more upfront time to do it well. So what I encourage the companies that I've worked for and the people that I've talked to is, when you're thinking about hiring, think about bringing people into the company who aren't video editors per se, but are able to natively use those tools to, whether it's a Loom or it's a video sales letter or if it's, clips or whatever it is, make sure that your people are conversant in storytelling with video, even at the most basic level, as a starting point. So that's the kind of like the medium I would start with content. And then at the end of the day, you've got to put your subject matter experts out there. Nobody wants to see an AI talking head avatar. I'm sorry, AI talking head avatar SaaS solution providers. Not going to happen. You've got smart people in your organization. It's your job as marketers to coach them up, get them comfortable with the medium. I'm sorry if they don't feel like doing it. I'm sorry if they feel uncomfortable. It's your job as marketers to get your subject matter experts comfortable with the language of presenting on camera and in video. You got to do it.
Yep. It's the
because
same.
People want to talk to the experts. They don't want to talk to. They don't want to talk to the marketing guy.
And they don't want to talk to the brand. Why am I on this
podcast? I'm the marketing guy.
They don't want to talk to the brand because that's not possible, right? Hey, right. I'd like to interview Coca-Cola, please. Like, no, that doesn't exist. You interview someone who works there. You know what I mean? Like,
so we just made the switch at Resilio. So we've been posting on our LinkedIn company page, posting. That's okay. So we just recently switched about a month ago to having myself and my colleagues, chief product officer, chief technology officer, CEO, create their own content from their perspective of building businesses and their lessons learned and what it means, putting what they're doing in context of how it's helping their customers, our customers, on their personal pages, and then using the LinkedIn advertising tool to promote that against our target audience. And we're seeing not just minor increases in click-through, but like exponential more engagement on that than a company page post. And you're talking about a big audience difference too. So people, the lesson learned, which we should have known a while ago, is people want to hear not from influencers, but the people doing the work, right? And not the brand. As great as your brand is, how beautifully designed it is, how artistic it is, they want to hear from the people behind the scenes. And I think the best part of my career has been what I call the behind the scenes stuff. I was doing this a while ago at Avid, where we did a blog about the creative process through the eyes of the video editors and film editors and musicians and live sound artists, telling their stories through their eyes on how they went through the creative process is so much more interesting than a glossy magazine advertisement or a 30-second pre-roll video ad.
That's amazing and so well said. You're preaching to the choir. I built a company that's based on helping companies build practitioner-led content. So I could have paid you to say all of that, and maybe I will. So yeah, I preach to the choir there. But we also do the same thing with my LinkedIn Casting Studios side versus LinkedIn side, and then also some of our customers who we've built shows for, having their executives who host a podcast, using their company pages to promote versus starting to run LinkedIn ads. And wouldn't you know it, it's a whole lot cheaper and a whole lot more effective and a whole lot more engagement when it comes from the personal pages. It's like LinkedIn tells us this. We know this. Like, we've known this for years and we still don't do it, but it's just a bridge too far for some people. It's just too hard. And it's like, yeah, but what you're saying is the thing that I know is going to work is too hard. Do you know who's going to do it? Your competitors.
Your competitors. 100%.
They're going to figure out how to do the hard thing. We have that conversation over and over and over again with people where it's like, hey, should we invest in building a video series or a podcast series or whatever? And I'm like, are you telling me that you talking to your customers and prospects about their problems and how they're living in any world, is that going to be a waste of time? Like, is it the best possible use of ROI, hard ROI? I have no idea, but I've been doing this for a while, and I can unequivocally say that creating something with your audience and your community is always a good thing.
The best part of my job, guys, is when I get on a platform like this and do a video interview with one of our customers around. We have a series called Future Proof, which is trying to understand how folks who are running IT departments are preparing themselves for any eventuality that might happen, whether it's disaster recovery or companies merging or acquiring and distributed storage systems and all that. How are they future-proofing their organizations around technology? And to help them to hear them go through that mental model of discovery, challenge, solution, and then just have be conversational about it, record it, do some minor editing, and we put it on our website. And then they kind of unprompted will talk about how much they love. You get the magic word, love, Resilio, because customer support was amazing, or the engineers got back to me immediately, or you guys responded in ways that other vendors couldn't. That to me, and unprompted, that magic moment where they kind of, the eyes go back a little bit and they think about that magic moment when it clicked for them. That is just magic. And having the customer say that. And I'm not talking about going to their office and setting up a 3-camera shoot and, the lighting. And it's you see the people in the background moving around quickly. Talking about just like we're doing here. That is magic. And why more companies aren't doing that and hiring Caspian to do that is that's giving away the magic secrets here, but it's got to be done. And it's so easy. Guys, listen, I'm telling you, when I got started in this business, the Mac Tower was $5,000 at minimum. The hard drive system was another $10,000. And that was I don't know what the storage capacity was, but it was very little. And the videotape decks were another $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000. So we're talking, this is video editing in the late 90s. We're talking major capital investment for pre-HD content, standard definition. What you can do for $50 a month subscription to a SaaS video tool blows my mind. And if you're not doing that, what the heck are you doing with your time as a marketer? It's crazy to me.
I mean, the guy who just won the Academy Award for Best Picture shot his last movie on an iPhone. I mean, you're talking about
but he used a lot of expensive equipment for audio, lighting, and color grading. So there's a little bit of a Hollywood magic happening there. But yeah, it was shot on iPhone for sure.
But I think just the idea though that to your point, it's all that was not ever even possible. You know what I mean?
No excuse not to be adopting video as part of your primary go-to-market strategy. Zero excuse today. There may have been 25 years ago, but not today.
Yeah, I think people spend are watching 5 hours of video a day right now, consumers.
Is it that much? Wow.
Yeah, 5 hours of video. And it's my thing is just a simple equation. How much time does your audience spend consuming different mediums? How much content are you creating for those mediums? If 90% of the stuff you're creating is written and your audience is consuming 5 hours a day of video, you should flip it. It's kind of that simple. So anywho, you have me sold, that's for sure.
Video is the future or the present and future.
Yeah, right. Adam, this has been absolutely fantastic. For our listeners, go give your CIO a nudge for Resilio and tell him that it's you can meet the new standard for high performance data everywhere. Adam, any final thoughts? Anything to plug here?
I would say check us out at resilio.com. And if there's anything I can help your audience with, my personal email is adam@resilio.com. Meredith and Ian, it's been an absolute delight to meet you guys and spend time with you on your podcast. I wish you guys a lot of success, and I appreciate you allowing me to drop in.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Adam.
Have a great day.
You too. Well, that's it for today. I hope you got some good ideas for your B2B content. Thank you for listening to Remarkable. I'm Ian Faison, CEO of Caspian Studios. Remarkable is created by the team at Caspian Studios, B2B podcast as a service. Caspian also creates fiction series for B2B companies, so if you want a business thriller, you can learn more at caspianstudios.com. Hollywood-style storytelling for B2B. And in today's episode, you heard from myself, Ian Faison, and Meredith O'Neill, senior producer here at Caspian Studios. Remarkable was produced this week by Meredith O'Neill, mixed by Scott Goodrich, And our theme song is Solomon by Falak. Be remarkable and rise above the noise.